First is Terminator: Dark Fate, 2019. It was promoted as the true sequel to Terminator 2, Judgment Day, ignoring the events of previous sequels, but despite the nostalgia, the movie failed to reignite the franchise or connect with modern audiences. It was released in November 1st, 2019. Director, Tim Miller. Producers, James Cameron, David Ellison, Dana Goldberg, Don Granger. Writers, David S. Goyer, Justin Rhodes, Billy Ray. Story by James Cameron and Charles H. Igley. Main cast, Linda Hamilton as Sarah Connor. Arnold Schwarzenegger as T-800 Carl. Mackenzie Davis as Grace. Natalia Heish as Dani Holmes. Gabriel Luna as REV-9 Terminator. Diego Boneta as Diego Ramos. Production budget, estimated $185 to $196 million. Worldwide box office, around $261 million. Total loss, estimated $120 million, including marketing and distribution. Streaming availability, it is available on Paramount Plus, Amazon Prime Video, Apple TV, YouTube movies. IMDb rating, 6.2 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes rating, 70% critics and 82% audience. Format and runtime, released in 2D, IMAX, Dolby Cinema, and it is about 128 minutes long. Reasons for backlash or flop. Franchise fatigue. After multiple reboots and sequels, audiences had grown tired of the repetitive Terminator formula. Controversial story choices. Killing off John Connor in the opening scene alienated longtime fans. Recycled plot. The film felt like a remake of T2 rather than an original continuation. Weak new characters. Danny and Grace failed to leave a lasting impression or carry the emotional weight of the story. High budget, low return. The massive production and marketing costs made profitability nearly impossible. Mixed marketing message. Audiences were unsure how this film connected to earlier ones due to timeline resets. Competition. Released against stronger box office performers like Joker, 2019, and Maleficent, Mistress of Evil. Next is Lightyear, 2022 animated movie. Buzz Lightyear is an icon. But when Pixar released Lightyear in 2022, a movie supposed to explain the origin of Buzz, it didn't rocket to box office success. Why? Let's find out what happened. It was released in June 17, 2022. Directed by Angus MacLane. Written by Jason Headley and Angus MacLane. Main casts, voice actors. Chris Evans as Buzz Lightyear. Kiki Palmer as Izzy Hawthorne. Peter Sohn as Socks. Runtime and format. It was the first Pixar film with specific formatting for IMAX theater, and it is about 1 hour 45 minutes long. Budget versus earning. Production budget, around $200 million production. Worldwide box office, about $226.4 million. Estimated loss, about $100 to $110 million. In short, Lightyear did not make back what was invested. Streaming availability. The movie is available on Disney Plus for streaming. Ratings and performance. It is rated on IMDb rating, 6.1 out of 10, and on Rotten Tomatoes. It has mixed critics and decent audience. Reasons for the backlash and flop. This include many reasons, but the main are brand/premise confusion. Many expected this to be a Toy Story sequel instead. It was positioned as an origin film for the Buzz Lightyear character. That confused some audiences who didn't understand how it fit in the Toy Story universe. Strong competition and market factors. Lightyear opened the same weekend as Jurassic World Dominion, which had strong holdovers, among other films. Controversy. The film includes a same-sex kiss between two female characters. Some markets banned or restricted it over that content. This limited its international revenue potential. Return on investment versus costs. The budget was huge, and Lightyear didn't get enough of that. In the end, Lightyear was a big-budget movie, but it shows that even with all that, things like messaging, expectations, and the global moment matter a lot. When you promise something tied to a legacy, you also risk a lot. Moving to the next is Elemental. In a world where beings made of the classical elements, fire, water, earth, air, coexist in a city called Element City, Ember, a fire element, and Wade, a water element, form an unlikely relationship while Ember's family runs a convenience shop. It was released in 2023, directed by Peter Sohn, produced by Pixar Animation Studios for Walt Disney Pictures. Main casts, Voice actors: Leah Lewis as Ember Lumen, Mamoudou Athie as Wade Ripple. Runtime and format: released in various advanced theatrical formats, including RealD 3D for DX and Dolby Cinema. It is about 1 hour 43 minutes long. Budget versus earning. Production budget: about $200 million. Worldwide box office gross: for $196.4 million total. It was the lowest ever opening for a wide Pixar release, excluding adjusted older films, in modern times. Streaming availability: it is streamed exclusively on Disney+. Ratings and performance: it is rated on IMDb rating 8.8 to 9 out of 10, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Elemental may not satisfy as fully as the greatest Pixar pictures, but it remains a solid story told with dazzling visual flair. Was it a flop?
No!
Elemental did not flop in the long run. While its opening looked alarming, its legs, box office staying power, international earnings, and streaming success pushed it into modest success, or at least not a disaster. It is, however, not among Pixar's biggest hits. It underperformed versus many expectations domestically. Whether it turned a large profit is uncertain. With a $200 million production budget, plus large marketing costs, plus revenue splits with theaters, its profit margins are probably slim compared to big franchise Pixar films. But given the global number, US dollars roughly $496 million gross, plus streaming plus merchandising, etc. In the end, Elemental teaches us a lesson. Sometimes box office isn't decided on opening weekend, but on persistence. Pixar's latest wasn't their biggest hit, but it didn't flame out either. Brothers, 2022. Brothers was a romantic comedy that made history as the first major Hollywood studio film featuring an entirely LGBTQ+ principal cast. It was expected to be a bold and refreshing addition to the rom-com genre. Despite strong critical reviews and positive representation, the film performed poorly at the box office. It was released in September 30th, 2022. Directed by Nicholas Stoller. Produced by Judd Apatow, Nicholas Stoller, Joshua Church. Written by Billy Eichner, Nicholas Stoller. Main cast: Billy Eichner as Bobby Lieber, Luke McFarlane as Aaron Shepard, Guy Branum as Henry, T.S. Madison as Angela, Marie Jones as Cherry, Jim Rash as Robert. Production budget: estimated $22 million. Worldwide box office: around $14.7 million. Total loss: estimated $10 to $15 million. Streaming availability: it is available on Peacock, Amazon Prime Video, Rental, Apple TV, and YouTube Movies. IMDb rating: 6.4 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes rating: 89%. Critics: 90%. Audience. Format and runtime: released in 2D standard format, and it is about 115 minutes long. Reasons for backlash or flop: niche audience appeal. The film's heavy focus on LGBTQ+ themes limited its reach to mainstream audiences, especially in conservative regions. Poor marketing strategy. Marketing leaned heavily on its historic nature rather than selling the story's humor or emotional core. Lack of star power. Neither Eichner nor McFarlane had major box office draws outside of niche franchises. Cultural polarization. The film became part of online debates about wokeness, which discouraged some audiences from watching. Genre saturation. Romantic comedies were already struggling in theaters, performing better on streaming platforms instead. Unclear target demographic. It wasn't marketed clearly. Some thought it was a niche indie film, while others expected a mainstream comedy. Timing. Released in a busy fall season, competing with major releases like Smile and Don't Worry About It. Next is The 355, 2022. It was marketed as a high-stakes, female-led spy thriller starring an ensemble of A-list actresses from around the world, and it is similar to Mission: Impossible or James Bond. However, despite its star power, the film failed to connect with both critics and audiences, becoming one of the earliest box office flops of 2022. It was released in January 7th, 2022, directed by Simon Kinberg, produced by Jessica Chastain, Kelly Carmichael, Simon Kinberg, written by Teresa Rebeck, Simon Kinberg. Main cast: Jessica Chastain as Mace Brown, Penelope Cruz as Graciela Rivera, Bing Fan as Lin Mi-sheng, Diane Kruger as Marie Schmidt. Production budget, estimated $40 to $75 million. Worldwide box office, around $27.8 million. Total loss, estimated $25 to $40 million after marketing. Streaming availability, it is available on Peacock, Amazon Prime Video, Apple TV, and YouTube Movies. IMDb rating, 5.6 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes rating, 24%, critics, 86%, audience. Format and runtime, released in 2D, IMAX, Dolby Cinema, and it is about 122 minutes long. Reasons for backlash or flop. Generic storyline. Critics called it a paint-by-numbers spy movie with a predictable plot and lack of originality. Weak script and dialogue. The film was criticized for cliché writing and flat, emotional moments despite its talented cast. Poor direction. Action scenes felt poorly choreographed and lacked the energy of other spy franchises. Overused feminist marketing angle. The heavy focus on female empowerment was seen as forced rather than naturally integrated. Bad release timing. Released in early 2022 when theaters were still recovering from the pandemic, limiting audience turnout. Competition. Faced tough competition from Spider-Man, No Way Home, and Sing 2, both of which dominated theaters. She said 2022. It is a biographical drama based on the Pulitzer Prize-winning investigation by New York Times journalists. While the film was critically praised for its performances and sensitive handling of the subject, it failed to attract audiences to theaters. It was released in November 18, 2022, directed by Maria Schrader, produced by Didi Gardner, Jeremy Kleiner, Brad Pitt, written by Rebecca Lenkiewicz, based on the book She Said by Jodie Cantor and Megan Twohey. Main cast: Carey Mulligan as Megan Twohey, Zoe Kazan as Jodie Cantor, Patricia Clarkson as Rebecca Corbett, Andre Braugher as Dean Baquet, Samantha Morton as Zelda Perkins. Production budget, estimated $30 to $32 million. Worldwide box office, around $13.9 million. Total loss, estimated $20 plus million. Streaming availability, it is available on Peacock, Amazon Prime Video, and Apple TV. IMDb rating, 7.2 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes rating, 88%, critics, 79%, audience. Format and runtime, released in 2D, standard format, and it is about 129 minutes long. Reasons for backlash or flop. Heavy subject matter. The film's topic, sexual harassment and newsroom investigation, #MeToo movement, was emotionally heavy and not appealing to casual audiences. Low entertainment value. Many viewers found it more like a documentary or news retelling than a cinematic experience. Limited marketing. The movie received minimal promotional push, resulting in low awareness even among regular viewers. Audience fatigue with real-life scandals. By 2022, many people had grown weary of politically and socially charged narratives. Timing and competition. Released during the same season as Black Panther, Wakanda Forever, and other blockbusters, it was overshadowed. Theatrical versus streaming appeal. The film might have performed better as a streaming exclusive release rather than a theatrical one. Niche appeal. Its journalistic and feminist themes resonated critically, but not commercially with mainstream audiences. Strange World, 2022 animated movie. Disney is known for magical hits like Frozen and Encanto. But in 2022, Strange World released. A movie that had a huge budget, a big cast, and yet it turned out to be one of Disney's biggest flops in history. It was released on November 23, 2022. It's an animated sci-fi adventure film directed by Don Hall, co-directed and written by King Gwen. Main cast, voice actors: Jake Gyllenhaal as Searcher Clade, Dennis Quaid as Jaeger Clade. Ratings and performance. It is rated on IMDb rating, 5.6 out of 10, and on Rotten Tomatoes, 72% critics and 66% audience. Budget versus earnings. Production budget, around $135 to $180 million. Worldwide box office, about $73.6 million. Estimated loss, between $100 to $197 million, making it one of Disney's worst-performing animated films ever. Streaming availability. The movie is available on Disney Plus for streaming. Runtime and format. The animation style is primarily CGI, and it is about 1 hour 45 minutes long. Reasons for the backlash and flop. This include many reasons, but the main are: weak marketing. Disney barely promoted the film compared to other animated projects. Many families didn't even know it was coming out. Poor timing. It was released during Thanksgiving alongside strong competition like Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. Mixed storytelling. While praised for diversity and representation, many viewers found the story confusing, slow-paced, and lacking Disney's usual magic. Target audience confusion. The movie tried to balance adult sci-fi themes with a family audience, which left both groups unsatisfied. Pandemic-era Disney habits. Audiences had grown used to watching Disney films at home on Disney Plus, making them less likely to buy tickets at the theater. In the end, Strange World had everything on paper: a great voice cast, Disney's animation, and a massive budget. But sometimes, even Disney magic isn't enough. This flop always serves as a reminder. Next is Charlie's Angels, 2019. Charlie's Angels, 2019, is a reboot of the famous action comedy spy franchise that began in the 1970s as a TV series and later became two successful early 2000s films. Despite its efforts to update the brand for a new generation, it failed to capture audience interest. It was released in November 15, 2019. Directed by Elizabeth Banks. Producer by Elizabeth Cantillon, Max Handelman, Doug Belgrad, Elizabeth Banks. Written by Elizabeth Banks. Main cast: Kristen Stewart as Sabina Wilson, Naomi Scott as Elena Howland, Ella Balinska as Jane Cano, Elizabeth Banks as Rebecca Bosley. Production budget: estimated $48 to $55 million. Worldwide box office: around $73.3 million. Total loss: estimated $20 to $30 million after marketing and distribution. Streaming availability: it is available on Netflix, Amazon Prime Video, Apple TV, and YouTube movies. IMDb rating: 4.9 out of 10. Rotten Tomatoes rating: 52%, critics, 78%, audience. Format and runtime: released in 2D and IMAX, and it is about 118 minutes long. Reasons for backlash or flop: weak script and tone issues. Critics felt the film struggled between being a serious spy movie and a comedy, never finding the right balance. Unnecessary reboot. Audiences didn't see the need for another Charlie's Angels remake, especially after the 2000s. Low star power appeal. While Kristen Stewart's performance was praised, the rest of the cast wasn't widely known enough to draw a large audience. Genre fatigue. Spy action comedies were losing popularity by 2019, especially with stronger franchises like Mission Impossible dominating the market. Confused target audience. It wasn't clear whether the film was meant for fans of the original, young women, or general moviegoers. Timing and competition. Released around the same time as Ford v Ferrari and Frozen 2, both of which drew away audiences. In the end, don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe our channel for more videos.